Hello. Welcome to SeedJura Legal Learning, where we make learning legal stuff fun. Today, we will talk about the Constitution of the United States, specifically the history and how it was established. I will turn it to Dr. Bob, who is an expert in this area.
First, let's look at the historical timeline of how the Constitution was established. In 1783, British recognized the independence of the United States of America.
Whoa, stop. Thank you, Dr. Bob. Let's try to make this a little bit more fun, shouldn't we? Those are good informations, but how does it apply to our lives? We want to make it fun and applicable to our lives. So this is how I think about the formation of Constitution and what I have learned from that process. So what I learned from the whole formation history of the Constitution are three things. Number one, why we need a central government. Number two, why we need to learn how to compromise with each other. Number three, important changes in our country often started by a small group of people. Let's explore all this together.
A lot of people are asking, why do we need a central government? Well, before the Constitution, we actually didn't have a central government, and it actually didn't go so well for us. So what happened? Well, after the Revolutionary War ended in 1781, the 13 states came together as friends, and they formed these Articles of Confederation. They drafted it in 1777, but didn't pass it until 1781. But really, there's no central government. So this is how it works. They form a Congress, and each of the states send one representative. So there are 13 representatives in the Congress. But it's really a loosey-goosey term. Because even though 9 out of 13 states can pass a law, if one state don't do it, there's no way for anybody to enforce it. The Congress have no enforcement rights. The problem is that Congress have no money because they have no right to tax any individuals. Rights of taxation belong to the states. And even though Congress is owing other countries tons of money because of the Revolutionary War, they have no money to repay those debts. So here's the reality. You basically have all 13 states, each of them have their own military. Congress have no military. They each have their own currency, their own laws, their own court system. So Congress is just a shell. Well, actually more like an empty box. And the rest of the world just see the United States at the time as weak, chaotic, and we're almost on an edge of a civil war. So really, without a central government, it didn't really work for us.
So now you can see, BFF kind of arrangement just does not work for government situation, does it? Well, that is why the Constitution has a stronger central government. But the trick is really to balance between having a sufficient government and still have personal rights for people. Well, that's a whole different video about the Constitution and the structure of the government. The second thing that I learned from this whole formation is how important we need to learn to compromise with each other. Without the compromise, there is no Constitution. We call that great compromise. Let's go and see what that is all about.
So why do you need to compromise? Well, it's because, if you recall the Articles of Confederation, we need 9 out of 13 states to agree in order to pass a constitution. So, to have the 9 states to all agree to this, you have to learn how to compromise. The first compromise you have to make is about representations in Congress. And the question is, how many representatives each state gets? The small states want 1 representative per state, just like the Articles of Confederation, so that there will be 13 representatives in Congress. But the larger states want to base on population, so they can send more representatives to represent them, and the smaller states only have a few representatives. Small state is super mad about this kind of suggestion from large states, and large state would not compromise, and they are super mad about small states' suggestion. So there's no constitution if we don't get 9 states. Roger Sherman from Connecticut, you didn't know Roger Sherman is one of our founding fathers, don't you? And he said, why don't we have both? Let's compromise. We'll have House of Representatives based on population, and we have Senate, who is going to be 2 per state. And everybody said, okay, I think we can live with that. This is a huge compromise for a very important issue, and thanked Sherman for his creativity. The other major item that they have to compromise is the balancing of power between federal government, the Congress, and states. And the states don't want a very strong centralized federal government, but we already learned our lesson from the Articles of Confederation. Without a stronger government, there would be chaos. So there got to be balance between the two. So the way they compromised is to look at all of the powers and they identified a few and give it to the federal government, and everything else, all of the other powers, remain with their state. There are actually many other compromises, like the executive branch and what kind of power president have. And also, everybody have the same common currency and free flow of commerce, making the economy nationalized. Without compromise, there wouldn't be any constitution.
As you can see that compromise is not an easy thing to do, is it? But it's important. If our founding fathers can create our country's system based on compromise, then so do we. We should learn how to do this. Well, from my observation of how they did it, I learned 3 things that's important. Number 1, when you are looking at everybody's opinions, you need to know everyone's ultimate needs. Why do they want something? And really listen and understand their motives. Number 2, you know, work together, acknowledge each other's needs. Don't reject the other person. And really work together to come up with solutions to best address everybody's needs. And this takes some creativity, sympathy, and courage. Number 3, most important, is that each of us got to know that not one person can have everything we want. So everybody has to give a little, take a little, and at the end, it'll be all win-win situations for all of us. It's a work in progress, but compromise is an art that we need to master in. Now, the next thing I actually learned from this whole formation of Constitution is that a lot of important things in this country are created and being done by a very small group of people. The Constitution is actually created, we call by founding fathers, and just a few of them. Let's look at who they are and how they did it.
The Constitution was drafted during the Constitutional Convention in 1787, but actually the reason that all the delegates got together was not for that purpose. It was for amending the Articles of Confederation. But after the 55 delegates got together, very quickly they realized that amending the Articles of Confederation just wouldn't cut it. So our founding fathers, a few of them, came up with the idea that we need a brand new document, the Constitution. So they basically, in secrecy, they created this document in 17 weeks. At the end of the 17 weeks after compromise that we talked about, 42 out of 55 delegates signed the Constitution. But getting the delegates to sign the Constitution is just the first step. The next step is you need 9 out of 13 states all to ratify this in order to pass the Constitution. So that's where our founding fathers get to work. They have to work with the delegates of each state to address any issues, any questions the citizens have, and to persuade them to ratify them. So the first state that ratified the Constitution is the state of Delaware, and that was in December 1787. And the next one really matters is the 9th state that ratified, which makes Constitution official, and that was 6 months later, June 1788, which is New Hampshire. And the next one you should remember is the last state that ratified the Constitution, which is 1790, which is Rhode Island. And by then, all 13 states ratified the Constitution.
So as you can see, it is not easy to pass a Constitution, which is a fundamental document of our country. And our founding father had to do a lot of work to make sure everybody's concerned and addressed, everybody is happy. So there's a lot of compromise going on. And the reason that we have to do that, have a Constitution, is because we know that BFF agreements among states just does not work. So having a centralized government is important, but constant struggle and process that we have to work through is how much power the centralized government have versus what states have versus what we have. And it's up to us. A small group of people can change the course of this country. So it's up to you and me to make the future brighter for our country. Next time we'll explore something even more fun. Alright, bye!
SeedJura is a group of lawyers who are crazy about you accessing your rights. The foundation of your ability to access your rights is having access to knowledge of our Constitution, legal systems, and laws. We work tirelessly to create interesting and useful videos for you about fun legal stuff. In today's video, we would like to recognize the following websites. Check out our other fun videos at www.seedjura.com.